Hello and welcome back to Hand Drink Solo, where we have another round of niche wine nerdery, celebrating the wines that really don't care about your comfort zone. Today's wine of the day is the City on a Hill Red Blend 2020, which is made with fruit 100% from the district of the Swartland, and it's made by winemaker Andre Bruyns. Now you may remember Andre from a video we made a year or two ago about his incredible Tinta Barocca, or you may remember him as the assistant winemaker to David and Nadia Sadi, Swartland legends in their own right. Or if you're particularly tuned into current South African wine news, you may remember the fact that he has been appointed as the vineyard manager for Lammerhoek, an estate which was very much at the heart of the Swartland revolution. In fact, I made an entire video that paints the picture of how Lammerhoek came to be ground zero for the Swartland revolution, and I'll leave a link to that at the end. Today's wine is a fascinating red blend that is just over 50% Syrah, it's just under 25% Tinta Barocca, and then there are splashes of Cinsault and Mourvèdre in it, which makes this a glorious Mediterranean medley of French cultivars, Portuguese cultivars, and Spanish cultivars. But before we go any further, we have to take a quick context detour, because after the 2020 vintage, Andre decided to swap out the big, broody, savory, layered Syrah component, which was half the wine, and sub in instead the much lighter, fresher Grenache component. So 2021 is a completely different wine, 50% Grenache. And some of you will be thrilled because lighter is the new gospel. But before we just accept lighter as the new gospel, I thought we'd just pause and think about how we actually evaluate wine quality. Now, obviously, quality is hugely subjective, but what I love about one of the really simple systems, the BLIC system, is that it can be applied to any wine regardless of your preference. So in the BLIC system, balance is a virtue, intensity is a virtue, complexity is a virtue. But you'd be surprised to learn that the L doesn't stand for lightness, it stands for length. And lightness is not a metric, it's just a mood. So before we assign any sort of medals to any wine just for being light, we need to just remember that just because it floats doesn't mean that it soars. Well, obviously, it's not a cultivar, it's not a global category. Rather, it's a style that has organically emerged from Swartland history, Swartland terrain, Swartland climate, Swartland winemaking ethos, and it's become this really distinct category that is globally unique. And what I mean by that is this Med-Iberian Rhone blend is not popping up in Burgundy or Bordeaux or Barossa. It's ours. It is South African. More specifically, it is very much Swartland at its core. And this is why I, amongst others, have started to refer to these sorts of wines as Swartland Reds, a term that I think we need to start normalizing, for the same way that you call a Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc Merlot blend a Bordeaux blend, even if the fruit might come from Mendoza or Napa or Margaret River. But enough marketing shtick. Let's get into the glass and see what Andre Bruyns has prepared for us. Now, when we give this wine a sniff, well, it's like a granite landslide just crushed an entire field of violets. Because you've got these clouds of gravel dust, loads of purple flowers, and there's this very pronounced, clear black pepper note. And then underneath all that is just enough black plum and prune fruit to keep all those more ethereal elements grounded. Now, when we give it a sip, it is ripe and it is concentrated, but it is never flabby. Think about Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt from Parks and Rec. He was fun, but Jurassic World Chris Pratt, he had abs and a motorbike. And this wine is definitely Jurassic Chris Pratt. As said, you have that ripe, rich, concentrated fruit, but it's really held tight with some pretty firm tannic structure. And then you've got that sharp, serrated Swartland black pepper seam that runs through it all, as well as a little bit of almost like vintage cedar, obviously from some barrel maturation, but it smells a little bit like your Nana's antique cabinet where she kept all the fancy china. And that cedar note, for me, aromatic cedar, always sits on the edge between wood aromas and floral aromas. It really is beautiful. And then with regards to the structure, as I said, it's got some really firm tannins, and I think this is a 2020, so it's 5 years from harvest, but I think it's got easily another 5 years to go. Which leads me to ask the question, will the 2021 that is 50% Grenache, will that go the distance as well? And honestly, I'm agnostic, because If it does, then we all win because we have a fascinating, delicious red wine that has legs, longevity, and albeit very different to the 2020, is a beautiful expression of Swartland, nevertheless. And if it doesn't have the legs, then I guess we'll find out soon. So probably the best strategy would be for us to circle back at the beginning of next year and visit this 2021 and share what will be, no doubt, an incredible wine, just very different in style. So while you finish off this class, I've left you 2 links, one of which really explains the kind of starting seeds of the Swartland Revolution and the role that Lammerschhoek played in that. And the other one is a video that focuses very closely on what exactly defines a Swartland red and why it's so special. So until next time, stay curious, stay niche, and drink solo or with friends.